Hi guys, Innocent, and I want to welcome you to another Python tutorial. In this tutorial, I'll be discussing Pandas, a Python library used for data science and data analysis. So let's get right into it. So what exactly is Pandas? Like I said, Pandas is a Python library. It's used for data analysis, and if you are used to something like Excel spreadsheets, then Pandas can perform some of those functions or all of those functions and more. So Pandas is a very powerful Python library for data science. So let's get right into learning Pandas. Okay, so I'm just going to open up Anaconda here, and I'll try to open up Jupyter notebook. Okay, now I've gone ahead to create a folder, Python tutorial, and I have some files in this folder. So I have data .csv. so it's a CSV file. You can see Microsoft Excel right there. I've downloaded this, not quite long. You can see, so you see CSV, comma separated files, value files, that's CSV files. Okay, and I have a JSON file, JavaScript file, and I will tell you the difference between these two kinds of file and how we can use them. So I simply have data in both of these files, and I will show you that Pandas can handle different kind of data. So if you have your files in, or your data in CSV format, which is comma separated value, or JSON, Pandas can handle it. So I'm just quickly going to click on launch, and guys, note that I'm going to push all the code I'll be writing here to a GitHub repository, and the GitHub repository will be in the description. Okay, so what I need to do is just go to desktop, okay, because I want to save this particular file in the Pandas tutorial folder, which you can see on my desktop. So I'm just going to open the Pandas tutorial file. I'm going to click on new Python 3, and this is going to open up. Okay, so once this opens up, you remember guys, we've talked about Jupyter in previous tutorials. You can go and watch that again if you wish to learn. So you can see I have untitled, so I'm just going to save this as my Pandas. Okay, so I'm just going to say Pandas tutorial. Alright, so I'm going to rename this as Pandas tutorial right there, which you can see, and then let's get right into this tutorial. So the first thing you need to do is you need to, because Pandas is a Python library, you need to install it. Okay, now if you're using Anaconda and Jupyter, the chances are Pandas is already installed in your Anaconda package. But if you're not using Anaconda, maybe you're using some other code editor like Visual Studio Code Editor or any other code editor, you may need to install Pandas. And how do you install Pandas? So I'm just quickly going to open up my command prompt, cmd, which we have gone over this, and all you need to do is simply just say pip install Pandas. So once you say pip install Pandas, it's going to install Pandas. You can see I already have Pandas installed, so it's telling me yep, already installed and all. So I'm going to close that. You can also do this by using the Conda package manager. Okay, so how do you do that? If you have installed Anaconda, for instance, all you need to do is just click on launch. You need to launch the CMD prompt from here. Okay, so you can launch the CMD prompt from here as well, and just type Conda. Okay, install Conda install Pandas. Okay, so this, and of course it's going to run this, and it's going to install Pandas. So you can see collecting package, blah blah blah, and it's installing Pandas. Okay, so after installing Pandas and everything is done, you need to come back to your Python notebook. And the next thing, on the first line or on this first cell right here, remember these are cells, so you need to import pandas. Okay, so I'm going to import pandas now. Shift and enter, and you can see pandas has been imported. So let's check the version of pandas we're using. To check the version, all you need to do is just say pandas, right, dot double dash version like this, and double underscore. Okay, not double dash, sorry, double underscore. Hit enter, and you see I have 1.2.4. now I'm importing pandas on the first cell. I will need to add an alias as PD, so every time I don't need to say pandas, I can easily just say PD instead of pandas. Okay, so I'll do shift enter once again. I need to run this, then shift enter. 1.2.4 is the version I'm using right here. So having said this, let's move on to the next thing we need to do. So remember I told you that pandas works like pandas is a Python library first. That's the first thing you need to know. And then there is the concept of series and data frame. Okay, now if you've been following our tutorial, you discovered that in our NumPy tutorial, which you also have a link in the description, we talked about, you know, dimensions. Okay, we talked about 1-dimension array, 2-dimension array, and whatnot. So a Panda series is like, or it's not like, it's a 1-dimensional representation of data. Okay, so let me show you exactly how you can create a Panda series. So the first thing I want to do is create a Panda series from a list. Okay, so remember a Python list. I'm just going to call this data, right? And I'm just going to create a list, a Python list of numbers 2, 4, and 5. Alright, so once I've created a Python list of numbers, I can now use this list to create a Panda series. So I need to say pandas.series like so, and then you need to pass in this particular data which you have created. So I'm going to just save this in data, okay, p. Okay, so I'm going to do data p equals pd.series, and I'm passing in data. Okay, so if I hit enter, I can now print the new data p right here. So if I print the new data p, you can see the output below, and the output 0, 1, 2, this is the index. Okay, so we have index 0, index 1, and index 2, and these are the values. Okay, so 2, 4, and 5. Okay, now I can easily change this index to whatever I want. Okay, so how do we change the index to what we want? Now in the stage where you say data p and you give it, in the stage where you are imputing this data, you can easily add index. Okay, so comma and index like so. And once you add your index normally takes on a list. So the first index I want to do is x, right, comma, and I'll say y, and comma, and I'll say z. Okay, so x, y, z. Shift enter to run that, and if I run this now, you see my index is now x, y, z. Now what else can you do? You can actually print according to the index, or you can actually refer to the index. Okay, so how do we do that? Instead of saying print data p, we can now, the same way we call the same way we refer to our printing of a list in Python, we can also use the same idea to say, okay, print 0, and you have 0 is 2. Okay, from what we saw the last time. We can also say print 1, right, we have 4, and we can also say print 2, and we have this. Now because we have index, remember guys, we have index, so we can also say print x, right, and it's still give us the same the same thing, guys. So you can see that. Okay, now having known about this, okay, now the next thing we want to do is let us create a Python series from a dictionary. Okay, so over here in the next cell, I'm simply going to create a dictionary. Remember how we create a dictionary? So I'm going to call that dictionary dict. Okay, so dictionary dict1. Okay, and how do we create a dictionary? We create a dictionary using the curly brackets and then the name. So this dictionary is going to have a name of students. Okay, so it's going to have a bunch of students, right? And the student, we give them a student name. So I'm going to call the first student John, and I'm going to call the next student Peter, right? And I'm going to call the next student Simon. Okay, and then let's say we want to talk about the student, the subject. So these students, they offer a particular subject. So subject, and what subject are we talking about? Let's do English, right? Let's do maths, and then let's do biology, like so. Sorry, that has to be inside single quotes. Okay, and then one more thing, let's do test score. Okay, so I'm just going to do test underscore score. So for their test score, I'm going to give them the first one 25, and I'm going to do 35, and I'm going to do 45. So I've created a simple Python dictionary right there. Okay, now the next thing I want to do is I want to create a Panda series from the Python dictionary. Okay, so what will you do? I'm going to save this as my dict1 series, dict1s, and I'll just say pd.series, right? pd.series, that's series, and then I will pass in dict1. Okay, so all I need to do is just pass in dict1 like so, and then I'm going to save this, right? And if I do print now, so the next line I want to do is print, and then dict1 series, so dict1s, and shift enter, and you can see I've been able to print this particular series. And what do we have as the output? We have students, we have John, Peter, Simon. Subject, we have English, maths, biology. Test score, we have 25, 35, 40, and we're given the data type is an object. Okay, now let us let us reference the index. Okay, so can we reference the index the same way we referenced the index for the first example we gave? Let's try this and see. So shift enter, you can see we can reference the index. So 0 is going to give us John, Peter, and Simon. So let's try 1. Shift enter is going to give us English, maths, biology. Now let's try 2. Shift enter is going to give us of course 25, 35, and 45. Okay, so this is how we can reference the index in a series. Now, having talked about series, the next thing we need to master or talk about is data frame. So series, like I said, is a one-dimensional representation of your data, but you can actually represent your data as tables, okay, or rows and columns. So how do we represent our data as tables or rows and columns? Okay, so I'm going to use first a list, and after I use a list, I would now use a Python object, okay, or a Python dictionary. So I'll use a Python dictionary, and then I would also use a CSV file, right? Read data from a CSV file and also read data from a JSON file. So let's get right into that right now. Now I'm going to create a list right here, list 1, okay, and list 1 is simply going to have names, okay. So list 1 is going to be Peter and John and Paul. Okay, so list 1, now you don't write names with small letter, but this is a tutorial and of course we can excuse that. Now I have list 1. How do I turn list 1 into a data frame? So I can simply do list 1 data frame. So I'm just going to do list, sorry, not on that line, on the next line I'm going to do list 1 data frame df. And then how do you do that? You just say pandas dot data frame, like so, right? And then you pass in list 1, okay. So if I do this, I've actually created a data frame, okay, like this. And on next line, let me just print out the value. So I'm going to print list 1 data frame, shift enter, and you can see now this as I have a table, okay, a table of rows and columns, okay. So of course these are the rows, row 0, row 1, row 2, and a single column. Alright, so let's look at creating a data frame from a Python dictionary. So to do that, I'm simply going to copy this Python dictionary, okay, or I don't even need to copy it. All I need to do is reference dictionary 1, okay. So to create a data frame from dict 1, okay, I'm simply going to say dict 1 and add a df in front of it for data frame, and then I will just say pd dot data frame once again. And then we have dict 1, okay, so I need to reference that and shift and enter, and then let's print that out and see what we have there. So dict 1 df, right, shift, sorry guys, I didn't add dict, shift enter, and you can see it's now looking like a table, okay. So you can see it's now looking like a table. Here you can also add the index, okay. So you can say the index should be 1, okay, sorry, the index should be 1, 2, 2, and 3. Alright, so if I do that, see, I've changed the index here 1, 2, 3, okay. Now Pandas has a function for getting, like, referencing different rows, okay. So let's say I want to reference row 1. Pandas has a function, and that function is called LOC, okay. So what you can do is do and I'm able to do that, okay. So let's say I want to reference 1 and 2, for instance. I can do this right here. So LOC 1, right, and separate that with a comma, okay, and 2, okay. Alright, if I do shift enter, I see I have 1 and 2, okay, while 0 is missing. So that's the LOC command, Now the next thing is we want to now learn how to actually import files, or get read files from CSV or JSON. Okay, and after we learn how to read files from CSV and JSON, we will move on to the part 2 of this tutorial, which will cover cleaning your data and whatnot. So let's learn how to import files. To import a file, a CSV file, all you need to do is first let me create a variable called y. Okay, so or I'll just say CSV data. Okay, now CSV data will be equals to pandas dot, okay, you use the read CSV. Okay, so if I use the read CSV, I have to input the path, okay, where the CSV data is saved. Okay, so to get the part where the CSV data is saved, I just have to go to my desktop, go inside Pandas, and this is the CSV data. So I'll just click on it and go to properties, right? And if you go to properties, you can see, and you can easily see the location right here. So all you need to do is just copy the location, or you can do that right here as well. So I'm going to copy the location from here. I will go back to here, and then Ctrl V, and of course you need to have the data, okay, .csv right here. Now if I run this, I'm going to get error, and I'll show you. See, I'm having error, and that's because this Python is seeing this as escape sequence. You need to escape all this. Okay, so you have double of this everywhere, so you need to escape this. And if you don't know what we're doing, that means you need to go back to the Python basics and learn that. So shift enter, you've been able to read this. Now let us print this. So if you print this now, you would see that you can now print CSV, okay, data right here. So it prints the first 5 values and the last 5 values. Now if you we also have a JSON data in this particular space. So all I need to do is just change this to JS. Okay, so if I type JS right here, then here also I need to change this to JSON. Okay, so I'm just going to put JSON data, shift enter, and you can see what the JSON data looks like. Okay, so let's Ctrl Z and change this to CSV. Yep, right. Okay, so we have this. Now we can now start viewing our CSV data. So we've seen how to import CSV. Let me just do same for JSON. Okay, so I'm just going to Ctrl C this and paste it here. So instead of CSV, I'm just going to do JSON, so you can have the JSON code as well. So JSON, and I'm just going to put this as JS. Okay, shift enter, and let's print this. So print JSON data, and you can see I have this. So JSON data actually is very similar to a Python dictionary. Okay, the format is similar to a Python dictionary, so you can actually even copy the JSON data into this place if it's not much, and then you can load it direct. But this is how you load your CSV and your JSON data. Okay, so let me just teach you a few commands for the CSV data, and then we'll move on to the part 2 where we talk about how you can clean your data. So the first command I want to teach you is the head and the tail command. So what do I mean by head and tail command? So we have we have CSV data, so I'm just going to do CSV data right here, and I'll just do .head. Okay, now you can give it a value, or you can just hit the enter key, and you can see that it's going to give you the first 5 values when you don't give it a value. But if I put like 10 here and I hit enter, you see I'm going to get the first 10 values, okay, when I use the head. Okay, now the same goes for when I use the tail. So CSV write data dot tail. Okay, and if I hit shift enter, I get the first 5 values. If I add a number, say 10, I get the first 10 values, the last 10 values, sorry. So this is the last 10 values. That means I have up to row 168 right here. Now the very last command I'll show you is the CSV data dot info. Okay, so CSV data dot info. Now what this does is that it gives you a summary of what this data is all about. Okay, so you can see you have rows, 169 rows, okay, 0 to 168, and you have 4 columns. Okay, and then it gives you the data type as well, so you can see this data and you can start cleaning the data. You know the values of data which are null. Okay, you know the value of data which are null, and you can just start cleaning this data. So in the part 2 of this tutorial, I'm going to show you how you can clean the data and how you can start getting your hands dirty in data analysis, really, and how you can make sense of data. So thank you for watching this one. I will see you in the next tutorial where we talk about how you can clean the data. So remember that you can actually get all this code in the GitHub repository. Okay, you can get all this code right there. So I'll put a link to the GitHub repo. You can easily download that, okay, or you can just clone it to your computer and work with this same data, or you can just download any data. So shout out to W3 School, where I was able to download the Java JSON data and the CSV data which we're working with in this tutorial. So I'll see you in the next one, guys.